We've narrowed it down to the top 5 pistol weapon lights. If you guys find the information in today's video helpful in picking out a weapon light, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe. Jumping right in, we have the Streamlight TLR-1 HL. This is the high lumen version, coming in at 1,000 lumens and 20,000 candela. The difference between lumen and candela is pretty big. Lumen is like the power of the light. So if you see 1,000 lumens, it's gonna have a very large cone of light. With candela, you're gonna have a smaller cone of light. So the beam is gonna be more centralized rather than a larger diameter. You kind of have to ride the line and see what's best for you. These 4 full-size weapon lights do a pretty good job showing the difference between lumen and candela. So you'll see that as we go on. With the TLR-1, I think it does a pretty good job balancing both candela and lumen. In this video, the wall is 15 yards back. The 2 pieces of tape on the wall are 3 feet apart, and you can see that the candela is probably a 6-foot diameter, and the lumens are pretty good. You can see it's lighting up the wall as it goes down the hallway. It's a really nice mix between candela and lumen. It's also got really nice length. You can see here it's flush with the compensator. Most of our compensators are flush with the TLR-1. It kind of gives a nice roll-in special look. And one thing to keep in mind about weapon lights is if you did not have a compensator on here that was flush, when you're shooting, this is gonna get coated in carbon. So keep that in mind if you have a longer weapon light. But with us, since we make compensators, all of our guns are comped. We don't really have to worry about that too much with these bigger weapon lights. With this light, you're getting about an hour and a half of battery life. One of the big things with lights is the switches. And I think the TLR-1 has my favorite switches of all weapon lights. It's pretty easy to push the button. You can do it with both hands. What's also nice is it's got momentary on the left side and continuous on the right side, which I like a lot because when I draw, I always use my trigger finger to activate the light. Whereas with some of the other options, they're a lot stiffer, a lot harder to push that button. I also like the mounting solution. It's just a simple bolt-on and it's rock solid. I never feel like this light slides back and forth. It's coming in at $160, so it's a pretty good price point too, compared to some of the other options. If I had to pick a con with this light does get kind of hot with it on, and to remove the batteries, you have to pull it off the gun and flip this little tray out. There's only one option here that allows you to charge it with a rechargeable magnetic battery switch, which is really cool. Kind of wish Streamlight would do that with this. Up next, we probably have the most common weapon light in the game, which is the Surefire X300 Ultra. There's 2 options with the X300. You have the A and the B. The B mounts similar to the TLR-1. It's just got a solid bolt that goes through, whereas the A is a quick detach. I haven't found that I like the A as much as I like the B. However, holsters are easier to find for the A, so it's kind of annoying with Surefire's situation. But one of the cons, jumping right into cons with this light, is the movement. This is a PSA dagger, so the mold might be a little bit off, but this is as tight as I can get it and it still moves around. It's kind of really annoying that it does that. But if I would've got the B, it probably wouldn't be too big of an issue. With this weapon light, you're coming in at 1,000 lumens and 11,300 candela. So less candela than the TLR-1, same lumens. It's definitely noticeable. So you can see that the lumens are about the same as the TLR-1, but it's got a more yellow hue to it. It's not as bright white as the TLR-1. And the candela actually is noticeably less than the TLR-1 here, which it is statistically too. It's only 11,300, where the TLR-1 is 20,000. So you can definitely see a pretty big difference with the candela here. I really don't know why this light is more popular than the TLR-1. The TLR-1 is smaller, it's got better candela, and in my opinion, it's just a better weapon light. This is kind of a cool look for a rolling special. It extends out past the muzzle, so you might get a little bit of carbon buildup on your light. For almost all instances, you're gonna get a better light that's shorter with the Streamlight. I know they were like first to the game and they're bulletproof. Surefire stuff is amazing, but you're gonna pay for it. This light comes in at $330, which is basically double the TLR-1. But in my opinion, I like the TLR-1 a little bit better. It is nice that you get this really cool look with the Surefire, but I don't really feel like paying $150 for a little bit longer light, especially when most of my guns are dual purpose. I carry them and I use them in competition. So for me, the TLR-1 has always been the right choice. One thing about the Surefire is it's known for its reliability. It's been a pretty proven light. And I think one of the cons also has a pro, and it may be the switches on this light. The switches are pretty hard to flick with your finger. Your thumb is a little bit easier than your shooting finger, and that might be good for reliability and durability, and they probably break in too, but I found that they are pretty stiff compared to some of the other options. The battery life on the X300 Ultra is about an hour and a quarter, so you're gonna have a little bit less battery life than the TLR-1, but if you wanna spend a little bit more money, you wanna get a really solid light that is known, you can get holsters for really easily, and you're not gonna have to worry about it. This is a pretty good option. Up next, we have the Surefire X300 Turbo. This is a new option from Surefire. I actually like this a lot. It's the exact same footprint as the Surefire X300. Same switches, same size, same holster compatibility. Of course, this is the A, so it's the quick detach. However, I cannot get it to come off this echelon. But I really like this light a lot. It's significantly better, in my opinion, than the X300 Ultra. You're coming in at 66,000 candela, 650 lumen. So less lumen than the TLR-1 and the X300, but substantially more candela. And it's very noticeable. You can see, again, at the 15-foot mark, you can see that candela is about 3-foot diameter, whereas all the other ones were 6-7 foot. A lot brighter. If you were to shine that on somebody's face,
that one's excruciating.
They probably would not be able to see very well. So I like this a lot for that reason. However, if you're within 5 yards, your throw is gonna be very small. So if you're using this weapon light to search, you're in a parking lot, you see some activity going on, you're gonna be searching a lot more with your gun. It's not gonna have as much of a bigger throw like you would see with lower candela weapon lights. So that's something to keep in mind. If you like more candela and you want to make somebody go blind when you point this at their face, this is a pretty good option. I like it a lot. Camera doesn't do justice the lumen aspect of this light because it actually is brighter than it appears on camera. I still wish the switches were lighter like the TLR-1. They are pretty heavy. And same thing with the light sticking out farther. If this was on a Glock 19, it would look a lot bigger than the gun. It's just a really big light. But again, you get the reliability of a Surefire, so this light comes in at about $330. It's definitely pricey, but you do get something different than the other options out there. With the battery life on the Turbo, you're looking at about an hour and a half. One thing I did notice is this doesn't get as hot as the regular X300. It would be really cool if this was like a 2-hour battery life, because then that's just another win for the Turbo, and it would really set it apart from the other options. Now for the newest weapon light, the odd man out, the Holosun P.ID. This light is an absolute brick, but I like it a lot. It's about the same size as the TLR-1. It has some pretty cool features. You can change it between a 500 lumen and a 1,000 lumen setting. If you don't need 1,000 lumens, you want longer battery life, you can quickly adjust it to the 500 setting. You just press and hold both switches. Takes like 2-3 seconds and it will adjust to the 500 lumen option. In my personal opinion, I prefer the 1,000 lumen. With that, it's gonna come with 23,000 candela. If you look at the difference and compare it to the TLR-1, it's very similar. You can see that the focus of the candela is a lot more centralized. I like it a lot. It's like the perfect middle ground. It's enough that you still have a lot of splatter and you can see pretty good with the lumen. So up close, it's not just a 2-inch dot on the wall. It's kind of like the best of both worlds. At a distance, you get a nice centralized circle. It looks like it's about 4 or 5 feet rather than the 6-7 feet of the TLR-1. With this, you're only gonna get an hour of battery life, so a little bit less than some of the other options. However, they did this really nice magnetic charger. If this is a nightstand gun, you wanna throw it on the charger overnight. If you see it's getting low, not a big deal. It's pretty easy. I like that they did that a lot. That way you don't have to pull your light off and on, change the batteries all the time. With this, the mounting solution is rock solid. It's similar to the TLR-1. You can't move it at all. One of the big downsides of a new weapon light is holster compatibility. There's not too many people making holsters for this yet, so this is really only good for a nightstand gun or a truck gun or something that's just gonna get thrown somewhere. I'm sure holster options will be coming soon. There's just not any good ones out there yet. However, I wouldn't let that discourage you. I think this is a really good light, and people are gonna see that and start making holsters really fast. It comes in at $169, so very comparable to the TLR-1. I think that's pretty fair. In my opinion, I like the candela of this a little bit more, but if I had to give it a con, the switches are not the best. The switches kind of remind me of the Enforce APLC. They're harder to push in than that. It looks like they have aluminum paddles, which is nice. However, this light isn't tested. It's a brand new light. We haven't put it through the ringer like we have these other lights. However, I have a lot of Holosun optics that have been incredibly solid for a number of years. Holosun always seems to put out pretty good stuff, so take that for what you will. Last but not least, we had to throw in the Streamlight TLR-7 sub. I love this weapon light for subcompacts. In my opinion, it's the absolute best. That's why there's no other subcompact weapon lights on here. However, I did want to see how it compared to the full size, and there's a noticeable difference. With only 500 lumens and 5,000 candela, you can see that at the end of the hallway, you can't really see a definitive candela circle. In person, this definitely looks better. You can see it more clearly. This is definitely not really competing with the full size, and it shouldn't. It's a quarter of the candela. It's half the lumens. It's a third of the weight. It's a third of the size. It's just smaller all around. But in my opinion, this has its niche. It's concealed carry, and it's the best at it. I've used this specific light on all my carry guns. I trust it. I've never had an issue with it. It's very similar to the TLR-1. It's super rigid. They make different mounting solutions. If you had a Hellcat, a Glock, a 1913, 365, you're definitely gonna wanna get the right version so that you have holster compatibility. Talking about holster compatibility, it's so easy to find holsters for these lights, which is incredibly nice. And for the price of $150, I really don't think you can beat it. It's just such a good light. Something to keep in mind is if you're used to using your trigger finger to activate the light, you can see how bound up my finger is here. You're gonna have to train with doing it with your thumb on presentation. But with that being said, this is a really awesome light. The switches are tactile. You can hear it clicking. They're easy to push in, but not easy enough that you would accidentally do it. They have different sizes, so you can make it extend out or shorter, so it fits your fingers a little bit better depending on where your rail is. So I just like this light a lot, had to throw it in. Considering it's such a small light, still has an 1.5 hour battery life, which is about perfect for concealed carry guns. As much as I train with it at night, I haven't had to replace battery with it, so I like this weapon light a lot. With all that being said, here is the footage of all the weapon lights side by side so you can actually get a really good comparison. You can see right away that the turbo stands out and it's way different than all the other options. And you can see that the Holosun P.ID is actually a very nice middle ground. We'll see how that light holds up because I think it has really good capabilities. And of course we have the TLR-7 sub falling behind there, but again, I still think it's the best option for carry on a subcompact pistol. All these lights are a lot brighter in person than they are in camera, so keep that in mind. And again, I really don't think you can go wrong with any of these lights. Go with what you think you need for the situation. We'd really appreciate it if you guys dropped a comment down below. Do you guys prefer the X300, the TLR-1, or are you really digging the new Holosun? If you guys like this video, we'd appreciate a like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.